Hello everyone, it's Louise here, and today we're going to be making some cards from this Rolling Waves bundle. So here we have the stamp set and a die set. It's quite a lot of dies, so these two will make up the umbrellas. And then we've got our Rolling Waves set. So there's 4 different dies there. And here we have all our seashells. Really great die because it's all connected and we can run it through at one time and get them all done. These pieces here are going to match these little shell stamp sets here. So I've got some of them already cut out, but so you know what they're going to look like, that one is that one there. And I'm using a retired cardstock, pattern paper, because I had lots of it. So you can see I've cut the white out of there. And this larger piece has come out of this Lost Lagoon area, and that's that piece there. And then there's a piece, and that's this one, and that's in plain white willow cardstock. I've used the Everyday Arches, and I've used the second largest and third largest. So we'll keep this out because we haven't cut our final piece yet. The base is going to be on crumb cake, top folding card. And we're going to add some ink around the edges. I'm just using a very small piece of all-purpose mat, which I've cut up. Now I'm going to add a little bit more ink to the corners. Creating what you call a vignette. Okay, so that's our card front. Next we're going to cut out a piece from here. So I want some of the Lost Lagoon colour here and a bit of sand. So I'm going to cut that out of this section here. So it doesn't move around. Bit of tape just to hold it in place, because what we're going to do is build. So that piece goes on top here, if I show it to you there. And this is going to go underneath. So you can move it along, whichever. I might move it along that way. But first of all, actually I'm not going to cut that first. What I need to do is stick these down where I want them. So put these together. Now you're not going to need much glue. I'm just going to pop in these spaces bit hard to see with all those, the back side of it's got all those white dots on it. And then I might add just a few here and there, but you really don't need too much. And that fits in over the top of that piece. And then I'll add this where I want it. I want to see a bit of it there. So what I might do is just put some glue at the top and just place it where I want it. And then this is going to go on here, like that. Yes, we'll be cutting these bits off, but... So before I stick it on, I want to put some sand. I want to stamp. And I'm going to use Pecan pie and this little... Now I need some scrap. I can just use that. So I think I'll make sure you turn it. Okay. So yeah, that's the look I'm going for. Just a little bit of sand there. So now I can pop some glue on these large sections here and just a little bit down to hold those in place. So I'm going to let that stick properly before I run it through my die cutting machine. So while I'm just waiting for that to dry properly, and it's a good idea, you know, you've got glue hanging off here, it's a good idea to use something like an all-purpose mat or a silicone mat to help with your cleanup. Going to now add some ink to some shells. So I've die cut from the light side of crumb cake and the dark side, just to give some variety. And we'll just do and add a little bit of extra shading without adding any more ink. We'll see how much we might add a bit more. There, just wanting to, there we go. I didn't want to really cover it all over it. So they're done. Now it's time to go and cut this out. So I want to make sure that I leave enough room. I'm going to stamp a sentiment down here. So my focal point really is this waves. So okay, gently pull away from the sides And there we've created our little scene. While we've got just one layer here, I'll stamp my happy birthday. Hold, let it soak in. Fabulous. And then this is going to go on top here, and that's going on there. Let's pop these shells in. I'm just going to have that hang off the edge a little there and tuck it under the wave. It's escaping from me. And I'll pop that one just overlapping. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in a card that I completed already. So then I've added some flat adhesive back pearls. Now I know they're retired, but any sort of pearls will do. And then I've added a piece of white willow on the inside, which measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and I've stamped "Hoping Your Day is Perfect" in Pretty Peacock. So let's move on to the next card. For the next card, we're going to use the stamp set as well from this collection. I'm going to use this last portion here. We're going to have a crumb cake card base, side folding this time. So I'm going to use white willow cardstock and this piercing mat. It's great for stamping the photopolymer stamps, especially the larger ones, to get a really crisp impression. We're going to use Azure Afternoon ink. Trying not to get lines on it. What I might have to do is just turn it over like that. Looks better. Stamp and hold down. Because it's large, make sure that you're pressing all over, just so that, and give it time for the ink to sink in. Okay, this doesn't have a die cut. I don't really need a die cut for this. So what I want to do is have this peeking out underneath, like that. So I'm just going to trim some of this excess. Glue these pieces together first. I really like the way these two pieces line up. Makes life much easier. Oh, so I didn't say that is Balmy Blue cardstock behind there. And then I'm going to stick that sort of like that. Maybe I could do a little bit more. Don't want it falling apart. Okay. And I'll just set aside that too. I might put a little bit in some of these little spots. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is work on the card base. Now I wanted to add some splatters, so I'll bring in my splatter box. I'm using a fan brush, but any brush, it's just I happen to like this one. So we'll start with some pecan pie. And I'm just going to put a bit on my block. A little bit of water, just to help get it a little bit more liquid so that I can tap it. You could also use a re-inker, so that will be fine. There we go. So I'll put that aside. I'll keep that there, that'll dry while I get the next one. So I want to use pigment ink, the white pigment ink. I'm going to add a couple of drops. It's getting empty. Okay. Perfect. And some water, so a bit more water for that because it's a thicker ink. So that should be good. And I might add a little bit to this as well. Probably not going to see it as much, but I wanted to add it. So I'll get this cleaned up and I'll be right back. So this is what it's going to look like. Now, what my intention is to have it coming from this corner here. So I'm not going to be able to see where it is exactly. So just going to put a bit of ink there. And then another line here. Hold that down. Might move it across just a tiny bit. There we go. That's why I like glue, because then you can move it around a little bit. Okay. I'm going to leave that dry a bit and then have a look at what I can do. So I thought I'd add some of these. So let's add a bit of colour to our shells. Just get a variety of shells and okay. I'm just going to use what's left on here for the time being. Maybe we need some more. Just tap it off so I don't get a big blob. Same deal. Going to just put down the edge on that one. The white ones as well. So I'll continue with this and we'll be back in a moment. I've added a bit of crumb cake to all the little shells. Now it's time, this glue's dried a bit more and I'm just going to cut this excess off. It is a bit hard to get through a few of the layers. If you have long handled scissors, that would be perfect. There I have it. Now you can see here that I've got this. So what I'm going to do there, get a blending brush and some ink and just fill that in. You could also just go directly to the edge. There we go. And that then looks like it's meant to be where the darker part of the ocean is. Okay. So there we have all of our pieces ready. So what I'll do is I'll bring in the card that I completed earlier. So that's what you're going to end up with. A piece of the rolling waves stamped and die cut piece, some of the shells, stamp your In My Thoughts or any sentiment. These little gems, they're iridescent foil gems, those ones. I didn't want anything that stood out too much on this card. Then on the inside I've done a bit of stamping with the small shell stamp in Pecan Pie. So I'll bring in the other card. So I hope you've enjoyed this today using this Rolling Waves bundle, and I hope you have a great week. It's not long till on stage here in Sydney, well, everywhere around the world. So looking forward to seeing all my fellow demonstrators. It's great to catch up with all those from around the country. I will put everything in the description below, and if you're new here today, I'd love it if you subscribed and hit that like button. Until next time, bye for now.